This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Betting Ring right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always, and I'm delighted to welcome back from the Scottish Daily Mail. It's always a pleasure to welcome Calum McClurkin. Calum, welcome back. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, brilliant. Nice to be back in the middle of Punchestown and off the back of air. So jump season's about to end and get into flat mode quite soon as well.
Yes, it's kind of that stage of the season where we've got a few things going on. Obviously, Ayr took place at the weekend. Kind of a weird Scottish Grand National Festival that we'll touch on in a wee second. We did get some news yesterday that I was keen to get your thoughts on a slight change to the jumps programme for next season. The Tolworth hurdle will be moved to a new Boxing Day fixture at Aintree. A couple other wee changes as well, just to kind of read through here. So the Grade 2 International Hurdle at Cheltenham, which is usually held on Trials Day, will now be held on Trials Day, rather than early December. The Desert Orchid Chase, which is usually the 27th at Kempton, will be made into a Grade 2 limited handicap. Just another few wee changes. A Grade 2 Cheltenham hurdle, which is going to be in November. You're going to have a Grade 2 Newton at Haydock. There's quite a few kind of big changes in there. It's been well worth the kennel gate been moved. There's a lot of intriguing changes, shall we say?
Yeah, and there's a few kind of soft graded races that have been scrapped. Things been moved about a little bit. Tolworth to Aintree is a bit odd, but I mean, whatever suits. But I do think there was an acceptance that something had to be done with the kind of, particularly the intermediate chases being scrapped, the future star stuff, things like that. Needed some sort of competitiveness, and the Lightning Novice being moved to Lingfield from Doncaster. These kind of things, it seems like they're skirting around the edges a little bit, but I suppose you don't want to put radical change in. But I think we need a bit more competitive racing at the top level and less kind of these 4-5 soft runner affairs, which don't really do any favours in the long run. So I think it's probably a decent start in the way that they're doing it at the moment, and skirting around the edges and looking at things. But at least they're acknowledging that there's a bit of a problem with the schedule at the moment. They're trying to do something to rectify it.
Yeah, just some of the races that have been removed. So the Dipper at Cheltenham, which is usually New Year's Day. The future champion that we just had at Ayr is going to be removed as well. You've got the John Francombe. There's a few, as you said, the future stars, the Many Clouds as well. The Peter Marsh will go to a full weight. So they're certainly doing something about it. It shows you that it's been certainly the fans have voiced their opinion. You saw a lot of debate on the kind of racing TV and things like that. So it is good that they're finally kind of listening.
It's a tricky balance because I mean some race courses will lose out and some will probably benefit. The Dipper's a race that I quite like, but the last few years it hasn't really been that competitive, and usually you do get quite a lot of postponements as well. So like maybe getting rid of these races gives a bit more scope for moving about, and your 4-5 runner field should become pretty much 8 or 9s throughout. But I do think that there's a massive dearth of talent and quality and depth in the British novice ranks anyway. Near borderline grader level, and I think that was worth looking at anyway. And I think that they've probably done the right thing. I'll have to see how it goes, and it could go the other way, I suppose, at the end. But let's see how it goes. And I think it's been moved so it's kind of made more competitive, and I think it's made a bit more of the British grade at the moment, which certainly isn't that too many Grade 1, Grade 2 horses. There shouldn't really be that many Grade 1, Grade 2 races like novice company. So I think it's a positive move, and I just have to see how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously going to be very fascinating for next season. We'll talk about Ayr. Obviously, Kitty's Light won the big one. Brilliant story for Christian Williams, obviously sending the best to his daughter Betsy. Brilliant one for them, obviously, the weekend. We obviously had the talk of protesters, which is similar to what we had last week. Now, I was told on Saturday morning that they were hanging about outside their racecourse, so I was feeling it was inevitable that they would somehow try. And I was having a debate with somebody, how easy is it to actually break into a racecourse if you really wanted to?
Well, the harder than Aintree, probably. You just go to the Tesco car park and get on there. That's what 25 of them did say. Craigie really is the only way, and then you're getting it through your house is really at the back and through the stable at the front. So it's not that easy. There was only 2 points to cover, and the police could have dealt with it well. I mean, ITV didn't even give it a mention. They didn't really get much kind of coverage. You didn't see any of the pink shirts. So yeah, 25 were arrested, and it's gone from banning the Grand National to banning jump racing within a week. So I mean, the agenda of these people are pretty clear to see now, and the fact that ITV didn't broadcast it, didn't get that much airtime was probably a positive. So hopefully we're over the end of that. Hopefully they won't be at Sandown and every other Saturday beyond. The Derby seems a bit of an open goal for them because that is a vast open. It's Epsom Downs. It's Downs. It's a total vast open landscape. That'll be quite tricky police if they target that. So yeah, but then they're all kind of in the same boat really, and they've got this kind of wider political agenda, and they're trying to enforce on people, and the way they're going about it might not be the best way, but they've got a right to protest. But as long as they're not disrupting anything clearly, then that's fine by me.
Yeah, what was your thoughts on the winner? You obviously fancied Kitty's Light. Very, very good performance. Going to have a quick turnaround as well, but it was an interesting race. Not many finishers, but it turned out to be quite a fascinating race.
Yeah, and quite a few pulled out because the ground was drying all the time, wasn't it? They didn't quite get the rain overnight that they expected, so quite a few understandably pulled out. Monbeg Genius being the most notable one. But yeah, Kitty's Light, when they put the cheek pieces on, as I was alluding to last week, it just made them travel a lot smoother, keep in touch. And your own story was unable to kind of go that half yard quicker that Kitty's Light could. He can still belt a couple, but was just so well handicapped. I mean, a bit like Corrick Ramble last week. The best handicapped horse won the race ultimately, and yeah, he did it with plenty in hand. Can certainly go up. He can probably hit 140s really, the way he was going. But yeah, it didn't look in doubt for a long way. I thought as well. The best horse kind of won and was comfortably on top.
You obviously went on Friday, a day, certainly for Paul Nicholls on Friday, 3 winners, and then on Saturday followed that up with Rubod, the champion hurdle. We also had That's All Right Gino winning the future champion novices chase for Jamie Snowden. What was your kind of takeaways for the overall meeting?
Yeah, overall trends probably. Paul Nicholls was not for 15 coming into this, so I didn't really have much reason to back any of his horses coming here. But last year, Nicky Henderson was 4 for 4. Dan Skelton 2 years ago completely dominated it, and it was Paul Nicholls' turn this year. So that's probably something to keep in mind of in the future if you're betting race by race. Probably is that if one of the big South trainers all of a sudden kind of have a pretty imposing winner, it's probably a good marker for the rest of the 2 days. And Paul Nicholls certainly did that. I thought Rubol was impressive. Quick ground went his way, and Ikeo pulled out because it was too quick. So I think he covered all bases quite well. I mean, he would probably kind of, he's good enough to be like big Grade 2 class, I would think, next season. He's going to be a good 2 mile novice chaser, I think. I think he's probably one to follow. Sail Away as well, if one for Bridget Andrews and Dan Skelton, quite impressively in the novice race over 3 miles, beating City Chief, who the ground was just slightly against on the day. Coming back next year for a Scottish National for Lim would be wise, I think. And plunder some good kind of summer races with him. So yeah, those were the 2 winners that I thought were pretty impressive.
Yeah, I thought it was some good, interesting horses running, particularly for Paul Nicholls. We'll move into Punchestown. We are 2 days in, so we'll get your thoughts, obviously, on the kind of big races over the first 2 days and preview the final 3. Let's start with the first one, which was the Mayor's Novice Hurdle, the listed race, which was won by Gordon Elliott. She could be anything. Now, it was a real comfortable performance. I thought she beat some decent horses in here. What do you think of her going forward?
Fences. A Mayor's Chase candidate, probably. 5th in the Mayor's Hurdle, shaped quite well. I thought that trip would be plenty sharp enough for her around Punchestown, and it wasn't. Held off the Model Kingdom, who bounced back from Cheltenham and ran to mark quite credibly. I think that Mayor's Novice Hurdle is looking like reasonable enough form.
Yeah.
Some have bombed out from it subsequently, some haven't. But with her and Hakadu Tibet going over, Fences Fences. They might be the two for Gone Elliot that actually gives him kind of a chance in a mare's chase next season. So she definitely has scope to improve, as is a stablemate, and both of them are quite interesting going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on to Facile Vega, who won the Champion Novice Hurdle over 2 miles. Again, it just followed up well. I thought he ran really well at Cheltenham, just was beaten by a better horse in the day. I thought he followed up in this really well, travelled really strongly into the race, sort of like the Facile Vega we know. He's potentially going to go over fences. He's probably the right call.
Yeah, it looks like going fences, maybe an intermediate trip. It'd be interesting if State Man goes over fences, because we'd be keen to split them up, and maybe in Peri Passe stays, goes to Champion Hurdle route for Willie Mullins. That might be the plan. Yeah, it was impressive. Again, he was on a recovery mission from bombing out last time and then going to Cheltenham, being second to Marine Nationale by 3 lengths, showed you a bit of speed and then get collared up the run-in. And I think he ran to that kind of low 150 mark again here. Diverge drifted like a barge before the off and was kind of a sacrificial pacemaker, to be honest. And LAT Top made a big mistake halfway. So and Facile Vega wasn't without error as well. He made a bit of a howler at 1. So it's what Paul Tennant said afterwards. He doesn't give his hurdles much respect, and you can kind of see that. So maybe fences is going to iron him out, and I think he's probably going to improve further. So yeah, he'd be a bona fide Grade 1 operator over fences. As for the others, LAT Tom, I don't think he's training on that much. If you look at him, he doesn't have much size to him. I think he'll struggle and diverge. That was a massive backward step, but again, maybe tactically he was kind of screwed over a little bit. I don't know, but that was a maybe he prefers kind of these stalking big field tactics. So maybe not graded level, but maybe he could maybe run away on a county hurdle next season, something like that, if they want to mind his mark. But yeah, it was a decent enough race, and Facile Vega won with authority, and cutting the ground seems important. There was just about enough on the first day. It rained overnight, and the only time he's bombed out was on his quickest ground that he's encountered. So I'd keep that in mind down the line.
Absolutely. Willie Mullins had the 1, 2, 3 in the handicap hurdle in the next race. I know you picked the front two. Takao obviously running quite a good race in third. Again, just 3 horses. Bialystok I was quite high on this year as potentially a horse. He hasn't really went on, but that's a big one for him. And the Richies, Tax for Max second, Takao third. There's a few well-known horses to us in here.
Yes, and it's covered my festival anyway. That 1, 2. Yeah, I mean, Willie Mullins targets this race quite well with his younger kind of handicap projects, and this was one of them. And Bialystok looked like a handicap plot from the offset, really. Tax for Max, who was third in this last year. He shapes it. He's a bit in between, his mark is pretty summed up, but he will run his race to this kind of level at sharp tracks like Punchestown. And Bialystok was good. I mean, absolutely cruised into it. Didn't find as much as he expected, but maybe again they're being mindful, keeping his mark. I mean, a Galway hurdle, something like that, might be up his street down the line, because he's going to get further down the line quite comfortably. I'd expect there'd be more to come from that mark, I would think.
Yep, absolutely. We had the Champion Chase as well, which was won by Energamine. It wasn't as plain sailing as his Cheltenham victory, but he did beat Chacan Persois by 3/4 of a length. It was basically the 4 Willie Mullins 2 milers that ran here in Magic Days was well beaten in 73 lengths. Energamine, it wasn't as flashy. It was he had to kind of lift out the fire a wee bit, but it was a real good run from Chacan Persois.
Was over his favourite stomping ground, and he came back to form a little bit, and he was travelling the best over the last and jumped it a bit cleaner and got away quicker, but was overhauled by Energamine, which is how tough Energamine can be, to pull it out the fire like that and stay on quite strongly. This is why it's such a trappy festival, because you're never quite sure of how horses come back from Cheltenham, even after looking so good. It doesn't look like they've had a hard race, but it's a big mega performance they've put in, and to keep kind of running to that figure again. I mean, Energamine's been a stone off his best there, and just pulled it out the fire. Blue Lord shaped okay in third, beaten 4 lengths, but he's just not quite open Grade 1 material. He can plunder all these Grade 2s all he likes probably, but he's a bit he's shaping as he was a bit tripless. He didn't quite stay in Ryanair for me, and over here he wasn't quite quick enough. A strongly run 2 miles should suit him. He just couldn't quite get in terms. Gentleman to me, ground went against him, and there was a pace burn up as well with Magic Days, so he didn't really have much chance. But I mean, that Christmas form between him and Blue Lord looks highly questionable, and then I'd imagine that this form might have a few question marks as well down the line.
Yep, the bumper was won by a horse for Guineas and Willie Mullins, Predators Gold. Not really many prices for the festival for Cheltenham next year. It was quite a slow time, 1-2 lengths to another Mullins horse. What do you think of him potentially going forward?
Son of Mass Marvel, which is a new sire coming to the block, who has produced Tia Hoopu. So I mean, horses like that, it's usually stamina laden. They'll probably get further, but I don't think it's a bumper that people have taken too much attention to. But the winner's pretty good. You know, the Gigginstown link as well for Willie Mullins. I'd expect him to mix it. I think he'd probably be more of a stayer. Whether he can get to a high mark quickly enough in his career to be a graded horse is questionable. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was a Martin Pipe project next season, something like that.
Yeah, quite possibly. The champion Novice Chase over 3 miles was won by Fair and Lily, who was running in bumpers only a wee while ago. So it shows you, again, you retweeted something from Gavin Lynch that said about obviously bumpers, which we'll get into, I imagine, in a second. But massive performance from him, massive training performance from Emmett Mullins. A few disappointments, appreciate it. I don't think it's that good, to be honest. Classic Getaway wasn't good either. So Gerhard didn't like the track. Journey with Me made a jumping mistake. And Fair and Lily picked up the pieces and actually jumped really well to win here.
He did. The only one that turned up, though. I mean, This was a deplorably bad race. So Gerhard went off 7-2, and he should have been off 700 to win around here. You know, he's bombed out twice. His odds-on favourite. His size, his scope for offence it's just not there. He's reaching for everything. It's just all a bit of a struggle for him. Appreciate it. Like the 3 miles in time, but I mean, this is 2 years too late, really. And he's not been the same horse since his setback. He's running to about high 140s all the time. James de Burley third. Again, he's not a Grade 1 horse. The Classic Getaway was the one that was kind of interesting, but again, the ground was beginning to dry up quite notably by that point.
Yeah,
he needs it soft, and he checked out like a light, which suggests that he's not completely over his historical, wind and bleeding issues. So, in Journey with Me, can't jump. So, this kind of fell in the lap of a well plotted horse. And the plus thing there is that it dismisses the notion that you always need a season in bumpers and a season hurdling if it looks like a complete out and out chaser. You don't need to waste 2 seasons getting there first. So it was bold, aggressive campaigning by Emmett Mullins, and it was well mapped out. And they've looked at a Grade 1. They think this is weak. We'll take a chance and we'll take it out. As for any Gold Cup links, I mean, no, for next season, I mean, absolutely zero chance of that. I mean, more chance of me winning it, but I mean, he's rated 150 there. He might improve, but he's got 25 pound probably to improve there, to be a fact in a Gold Cup. Could be an Old Yates, Grand National type maybe would be more realistic. We don't know what mark he's going to get here, but I mean, I would rather go that way. Maybe a kind of the national route with him or something like that. But yeah, it's weird that now you've plundered the Grade 1. Where do you go? You can't really go anywhere for further experience. Handicaps are going to be very difficult. You have to pitch him in here all the time, and whether he can back it up or not, I'll be a bit doubtful in open company, because he's surely going to be bumping into a lot stronger horses.
Yeah, it looks as if he will. Wednesday, let's get a few horses to mention. First of all, Sandown Clegane. Actually, I thought won really well. Actually, I was well fancied on the day. I thought ground went against 3 Card Bragg, but Sandown Clegane, again, another horse I think will appreciate a fence. Paul Nolan knows how to get a horse going, and this could be one it's been a long-term project, but I think chasing could be the making of him.
Oh yeah, he's a cracking 3 mile novice chaser. I mean, you look at that the Neville Sotell race over the DRF. I think that would be perfect for him because he showed some speed here. This looked plenty short enough for him as well. I mean, 3-car Bragg, he's not progressing, is he? I mean, he didn't see it his race again there. I wouldn't be surprised if Connections looked at his win, but I mean, Santa again, he just looks like latest exhibition Mark II. I think it'll improve for a fence to take. It's going to take a good one to stop him. I mean, in the latest exhibition season, he always kept bumping into Monkfish. Not sure that something like that's kind of going to be around this time around. He was unlucky in the battle. He was third. He was badly hampered. He maybe could have fought out the finish, to be honest, near the end. He shaped as if he was almost the best horse in that race. The favourite jumped out, Corbett's Cross, but if you watch it again, he was the big eye catcher of it all. Stay Away Faye hasn't done the form too much harm at Aintree, and to back that up and then do that over a trip that looked short enough over a sharp track like Punchestown. It was pretty impressive. He was confidently ridden from the front. There was no messing about. He was ridden as if he was the best horse in the race and backed he was the best horse in the race, and that's a good sign for the future.
Yep, absolutely. Grange-Clare West won the Lou Fitzgerald race. That's a horse that's been difficult to follow this season. He went off favourite for the Laws of Nace and was very disappointing. It hasn't been seen since the Grade 1 at Leopardstown, where he was quite disappointing as well. He bounced back pretty well. Again, might be hard to keep right, but he could be a good chaser.
He could be. I don't think this form's up to much at all. I mean, the Elliott duo got their number cloths mixed up at the start, and that probably had a detriment to their chances. And Imagine, who made to look a bit slow. Decapo Glory being 4 quarter lengths away isn't too bad. He was pushed out to win. He made heavy weather of it. And, if you're a graded horse in this kind of company, you should be winning with serious authority. Eventually he did, but he went clear in the run in. If he can build upon it, then great. But I would rather see that than kind of diving in on him again, because he's been disappointing the last twice. I wouldn't be totally convinced that he's over his issues yet.
One horse that did really impress, and I think has shown a lot in this run, was Gaelic Warrior. Won the Grade 1 over 3 miles. Second in the Ballymore. Again, we always talked about him going right-handed. You would see him to best effect, and we certainly did yesterday.
He settled beautifully for Pogtown Ends. Maybe Pogtown Ends a bit more the key. You get the main stable jockey on, he can settle him a bit better. This was foot perfect. Didn't even panic when the second actually overtook him in the run in the outside, and 2 horses came out and overtook him. He just sat there and I waited for the gap and then just scooted clear. Won by 10 lengths. Very, very impressive. Going right-handed makes all the difference. He jumped straight, settled, never missed a beat, and totally outclassed these as he really should on ratings. But I mean, and the interesting thing is what's going to happen in the future. Willie Mullins pointed out he's a complete stairs hurdle horse. Yeah. He's perfect for that. Connections were more kind of, we can't wait to see him jump a fence next season. I thought he'd be more of a chaser, but that fluent jumping display, and Willie Mullins probably not short in the department of novice chasers. He's still relatively young. He'd be 5 this year and going 6. There'd be no harm in keeping him over hurdles for another season, particularly if he's improving at this rate. It looks a fairly open division, and run it to mid 155s like that, he's already going to be pretty much bang there with the vast majority of open staying hurdlers. Got the trip well. It's just, again, it's a Cheltenham factor of, has that been completely ironed out yet? I think it's improving, but I don't think it's completely there yet. So yeah, I'd just be wary of that. But yeah, going this way around, he's different class.
And there was a turn-up in the Punchestown Gold Cup, which was won by Fast or Slow, beating Galloping Deschamps and Brave Man's Game. Envoy Alain, the Ryanair winner, was disappointing 4th. Fury Road just didn't go at all. Obviously, this is a shock, right? A 20-1 horse winning against the Gold Cup winner on the second in the Gold Cup, yes. Is it that much of a surprise, though, that Galloping Deschamps and Brave Man's Game were maybe below par because of the attritional Gold Cup?
True, but it was a bit of a stretch to see that result. I'd seen them. I can see them running. I mean, look, Energy Bean was a warning sign yesterday. I mean, open chase like that, and conflated bombing out of Aintree quite significantly when third. So you could see one of them checking out, perhaps running a stone below. I think we ran 20 pounds below the best. So Galloping Deschamps has, and Braveman's Game probably a stone below his best. That's how significant that is. And Fast or Slow's ran above himself. I mean, you give credit to the winner, and the winner's form, franked by Corrick Rambler in the Grand National. It's very unlucky to lose off 150. They're obviously high 150s horses. Have been well in, and again, opportunistic campaigning. But you nick a Grade 1, you're only going to get 4 or 5 runners at the end of the season. Now's the time to do it when everyone else has left the race behind at Cheltenham, probably. I think Braveman's Game might have given the winner a bit more to think about if he didn't miss the last. Galloping Deschamps shaped like a complete stare.
Yeah, I thought that as well.
He didn't really look quick enough here. I was surprised that he was ridden that far back around here. Surprised that they went down the rail. I think Paul Townend assumed that he had plenty of horse under him. He just the rail and scoot home. It didn't quite materialise, and he did plug on at the line next second. So maybe that kind of fiery fizz is gone from his game, and he is just a kind of a classy steer from the back. But no doubt that Cheltenham just took the edge off the leading pair at the market, and to such an extent it was Fast or Slow who picked up the pieces. I mean, he was being nudged along after the top two were kind of last off the bridle, but the one that boxed on was the one that won.
If you fancy Galloping Deschamps for next year's Gold Cup, you'll be happy to know he's went out in the market. He was 11-8 before the race. He's now 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to bet 2-1 shots for Cheltenham 11 months out. So
shows you though that every race matters. Like, I usually kind of take Punchestown as I take no view for Punchestown for Cheltenham kind of thing. Like, I usually think it's like the end of the season where you see the bit kind of the horses that are a bit more fresher, a bit less kind of behind them. I think you kind of go with them. But I don't use Punchestown as a view to next season at all.
No, not really. It's a completely different track as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right-handed, sharp. It's everything that Cheltenham isn't. Flat as well. So I mean, it's questionable end of season form mostly. I think that the biggest thing is that you can kind of see was there kind of any mood issues with Braveman's Game or Galloping Deschamps or anything? I mean, there wasn't. They weren't backing off things. They weren't kind of up for it. So I mean, I don't think I've seen anything that suggests that they're finished. They need a serious look at. I think that's keep an eye for. And what Willie Mullins says afterwards is a big key. Like at the end of the season, you're closer to getting an answer of are they going to stay over hurdles or fences or what are they going to do or what trip are they going to go for with these horses. So it's probably a bit of an end of season fact finding mission for Willie Mullins more than anything else to give him a good pointer to what he wants to do next season, how he splits up all of his superstars.
Yep, absolutely. A Dream to Share followed up his bumper win with the Champion Flat Race Grade 1 here, beat Tully Hill, who's an exciting horse from next season by 3.5 lengths. I thought you'd be very bullish on A Dream to Share after Cheltenham.
I backed him for Punchestown, but I mean, he's won 5 bumpers. This guy's a bumper horse, isn't he? This is a flat horse.
Do you think he's more likely
trading in National Hunt Bumping Company?
Do you think he's more likely to win, for example, maybe not an Ascot Gold Cup, but do you think he's more likely to win a flat big race than maybe a Champion Hurdle?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, he looks like a complete. It'd be a dream to have in a Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, something like that.
That's what I would say. I mean, or a Cesare or something. I mean, he would be rated too high for that, but he would comfortably mix it in graded company and flat. That's not to say that he wouldn't be able to jump and translate over there. I just don't really kind of see it. He just looks all kind of flat class, and he's beaten horses that you can see that are much bigger than him. Much less kind of fluent at him, much less. And a lot more backward than him at the moment. Next season, you'd expect them to catch up. You'd expect obstacles to help in that regard for some of them, particularly Tully Hill, who drifted notably as well from the off. Today wasn't the day and looked like an absolute stick-on Ballymore candidate. The way he shaped for me on ground, that again was probably sharp enough for him and quick from him. So suited A Dream to Share, who ran probably his level of the Champion bumper. if not a little bit better actually. But yeah, he just looks like it. Him, the Supreme wouldn't entertain at all.
We'll move into what's coming up this week. With 3 days left, we have the Champion Stairs Hurdle, which will hopefully go out hopefully this show will just go out before it. Tia Hupu leads the market at 2-1, Classical Dream 7-2, Monkfish 4-1, Stairs Hurdle and the Liverpool Hurdle winner Sire the Belly at 15-2, Asterion for Lawns 9-1, 16-1 bar. Very open race. Again, Tia Hupu leads the market. Could ground be too quick for him?
That's the question, isn't it? I mean, there is a few
Yeah.
showers in the morning, and it might be okay for him. He's not short of speed, and I mean, he overhauled Classical Dream in the Hatton's Grace early on 2.5 mile. No, it was bottomless ground that day, but he does have speed for a 3-mile hurdler, and Gordon Elliott's staying hurdlers were fine, weren't they? Aintree, Sire the Belly, so the Cheltenham bounce wouldn't be that much of a worry for him, I don't think. Obviously, you've got 3 Mullins candidates that could all conceivably win this. I mean, Monkfish would probably take a massive step forward from his last run, probably enough to overturn the form with Asterion for Lawns, but the turnaround is quite sharp there for after such a long layoff. And Classical Dream's probably the one to beat again around here. He's won it the last twice. Cheltenham, it seemed a big race against time for him to get there, and the market didn't really cotton on to him too much, and he was beaten, quite early doors. They've probably saved enough of him for this, I would think. He's bolted up on some occasions here, so I do think it's hard to get away from the front two in the market. And,
Can you imagine in February saying Sire the Belly could potentially win the Stairs Hurdle, Liverpool Hurdle, and the Punchestown Hurdle?
It'd be quite an achievement, wouldn't it? Yeah. He's not going to win this though.
I think it might just be too done.
This should be a little bit too sharp, and I think there's better quality of Irish horse here as well. With the Mullins brigade here. So, but if they go too crazy up front again, that might bring him into it. Thing is, you don't have a Four-Ring Porter here. You don't have a Dashel Drasher here. They're not going to slit their throats up front. This is going to be fairly reasonable. But I still think Elliott can win it with Tia Hupu though. But it's between him and Classical Dream for me. It's not original, but it's a race I can leave alone.
I don't have much of a opinion. I'd love to see Monkfish run well. I'd love to see him get a big win after coming back from what he's went through. 6:35, El Fabiolo returns for the novice chase over 2 miles. He's up against stablemates Dysart Dynamo and Sanwa. Indiana Jones the outsider. I'm looking forward to seeing El Fabiolo again.
He should win. I've seen stranger defeats though. Dysart Dynamo could love this and bowl out in front and
possibly
a sharp end and not get caught. I might have a small play at him just at the prices for interest. Is he 61 over 27? Yeah, I mean El Fabiolo should win £12 clear of these. John Bond ran reasonably well at Aintree, obviously, straight back from that. The novice chasers and the novice hurdlers are the ones that are maintaining their form to the end of the season, rather than the kind of ones in open company. So that would probably be another plus for El Fabiolo. Yeah, he should win. It's just whether Dysart Dynamo, if they give him a bit too much rope up front in a wee 4-runner race. And, Dysart Dynamo's going to prove that. I mean, that was a big fall that he took, and fortunately to get up, he was quite heavily winded there. You've got to think that if that doesn't dent his free-going tendencies, then nothing will if he keeps charging at them. So, maybe just a small tickle at Dysart Dynamo at 61, just in case he gets away from him up front.
Yeah, I could see that. Ballyburn runs in the flat race on Thursday at 7:45. Is up against a couple of nice horses for the future. Barry Connell's Apples of Brazil, Slate Steel. You've got Dancing City in there as well. Really like Ballyburn. 2 miles. I see him more as a Bartlett horse. I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe just get out, kind of a horse maybe done him for speed. But I can see him being a real staying hurdler next season.
Yeah, you'd imagine they'd go out quite handy with him and force it and make this year. He's won around here, coasting distance. We've kept him for this. He's been punted into odds on already. he's going to take some beating. This might be one of the best bumpers that you'll see all season. Obviously, the Connells merit automatic respect. Slade Steele's probably Henry de Bromhead's best bumper prospect. We've deliberately kept him away from Cheltenham, and I think skipping Cheltenham would be no bad thing for quite a few of these down the line. That includes Tully Hill. I don't think that was a great race, and Better Days Ahead bombed out at Cheltenham, so maybe he'll show a little bit better here. But yeah, let's see how it pans out. I would expect Ballyburn to win, but I mean, again, a shock here wouldn't be that surprising. For these horses, it's kind of, today's not really the day, is it? It's kind of more preparation for next season.
Yeah, definitely. It's Thursday, Friday, sorry, we have the Paddy Power Champion Hurdle. State Man looking to go for the Irish Clean Sweep. Again, apart from Cheltenham, where he was well beaten by a far better horse, he's had quite a good season and he could finish it really well.
He's been solid, and you'd expect him to win here. He was well minded by Paul Townend when Constitution Hill was away and gone. There was no point kind of asking for everything and emptying, because they knew that this was going to be available for him. But a cut in the ground would be fine. Interested to see how Vauban runs here. Fourth in the champion hurdle. It may be a bit disappointing not to finish third ahead of Zana here, but he's expected to turn the tables here quite convincingly. He's clear second favourite, and with a horse like that, 4 going 5-0 is difficult, but this is a time of year where you want to kind of show a little bit more spark at the top table, hoping that he could possibly make a race of it, and maybe another season over hurdles potentially for him, because I think he's probably decent. Sharjah ran at Aintree, Zana here ran at Aintree, doing well over those 3 meetings. Taking in Cheltenham before would be pretty difficult. So yeah, I'd expect State Man to win and expect Vauban to be second.
Yep, I'd agree with that. Another Mullins horse who is coming back after a good Cheltenham is Imperi Pass. 1 to 4 to win the novice hurdle Grade 1 here over 2 miles, 3.5. Champ Kiley, high definition. He really should just win this, shouldn't he?
Again, should do. But it's Punchestown end of season form. If there's any place that you won't, it might be here. But Gaelic Warrior's shown no sign of a Ballymore negative, has he? Champ Kiley going this right-handed would probably see him in a better light. Maybe he'll probably be a lot closer. The other one that's semi-interesting is the Cromwell horse. I know the way you're thinking, because he was quite highly touted for a Martin Pipe. They've kept him fresh coming here, 75 days off. That's probably quite interesting, because he could blow a mark really in the future if he runs too well here. So I mean, pitching him in at 33s, maybe have a small tickle at him each way, or without the favourite market.
Yeah, I think Imperi Pass should just win. I'm quite looking forward to this race, actually. Saturday, we have the Mayor's Champion Hurdle. Love Envoy is now 11 to 8, but will now be, but the jockey on that will now be Danny Mullins, who I think Mark Walsh is out. Yes, he's going to ride Epatont. Quite an open race. Love Envoy 11 to 8, Echoes and Rain 4 to 1, Queensbrook, Brandy Love, Epatont all kind of around 6-7 to 1. She wears it well 10s. Love Envoy to me is, I know she ran a really good race behind Honeysuckle, but she's short to me at 11 to 8 here.
Ran here as a Mayor's novice, ran quite well. She's a hardly solid type. You'd imagine they'd try and make all with them. I'll stick with Echoes and Rain though here around Punchestown. She likes this place. Less emphasis in stamina. I think she'd probably be a bit closer up here. She was at the Mayor's Hurdle, but she did kind of box on for fourth. But the ship had already sailed there, and they gave the top two that day a complete freebie at front. It's interesting to see. I mean, Epatont's out is 7 to 1 for this now. I mean, at the start of the season, she'd probably be about 7 to 4. She seems to be completely on the downgrade at the moment. Aintree run was fairly lifeless. It's got to the head. Brandy Love, this is the wrong way round, isn't it? But
double-edged sword though. She won that. She beat Love Envoy last year and was straight as an arrow.
Mayor's novice, I think she's been a bit poor this season.
She hasn't been great this season. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I would just side the Eccles and Rain really, but again, it's not a race to get too invested in, I don't think.
And a horse I'm looking forward to seeing the return of, one of the best profit bankers for me this year, was Lossiemouth, and she returns in the 4-year-old champion hurdle, Grade 1. 4 to 6 to win, Townend on board. Basically, just again, the summary of the 4-year-olds this season. Wally Mullins is the first in the market. Calum so Zaret the Brave coming back as well, which is quite interesting. But looking forward to seeing the return of I think potentially a horse for the future.
Yeah, and this kind of sharp tracks. I mean, this is going to be an emphasis on speed, and that's kind of her main strength over the field, isn't it? I'd expect her to win this as well. Galamarso and Zarak the Brave might be fighting out for second. Nusret going down right-handed seems to be a good move, though. And if Aintree maybe is taking a slight toll, but I think he's probably the one at the prices that might be interesting at a big price. Interesting how Zarak the Brave runs. After a long layoff, because his shape is kind of the best kind of non-filly really.
Yeah.
In the juvenile division, whether he'll need it and he'll be entitled to just kind of need this, but Willie Mullins didn't really need to run him, I suppose. Could have just kept him away because he's got this kind of safely covered, so you'd be hopefully shaped quite well here. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be all about speed, and Lossiemouth in this track should probably win this.
Yeah, I think it could be another one for Lossiemouth. Anything in the next 3 days handicap wise you quite like?
Not really. Not had much time to look through it. I mean, at the 5:30, I mean, an Epic Song was second to Coral Cup. I'd imagine he would go close in the 5:30 handicap. It's kind of basically a mini rerun of the Coral Cup, to be honest. But I mean, I think Martin Brassel's horse is going to go quite close there.
Yep, we also have the small matter of Sandown, the 2-day meeting, where Friday the flat, obviously, and Saturday the finale of the jump season. A couple of races to preview on the Friday. We've got the Gordon Richards Stakes, Group 3. Adair, the 2021 Derby winner, making his reappearance. 4 to 7, and Matt 2 to 1. What do you think here? This is heavy. It's down as heavy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of confidence in Charlie Appleby for Adair to have a big season. Yeah, if they're fully tuned up, yeah, he should no doubt win this.
Would you think Coronation Cup next or something like that?
I think Royal Ascot's probably more of a kind of a big target for him. Coronation Cup. Yeah, so yeah, could go that way if they wanted to. I mean, tons of options. Probably depends how he shapes in this, realistically. And the Derby winner going back to Epsom would make a lot of sense as well. So yeah, I think Charlie Appleby's pretty confident he's getting back to his best. And, this looks like a decent starting point. Ground would probably be a bit softer than ideal for him, but you've got to start the season somewhere. And, this looks like a decent opening, and Matt looks second best, definitely in the figures. But it's just whether it's one of these races where you monitor the market and see where they're at fitness wise.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the Bet 365 mile as well. Light Infantry, 13 to 8 favourite for David Simcock and Jamie Spencer. Fancy him?
Absolutely not.
Do you not?
No, I can't believe that this is that short. Not for me at all. Mutasabit would be the one that I would quite like in this ground over this mile trip. Charlie Hill's stable is in very good form. Bombed out in the Guineas, but he's been showing signs of getting back to kind of a good old level of form. He's certainly a lot better. And this soft ground will suit him. I'd rather have him at 5 to 1 than the favourite 15 to 8.
And we have the classic trial at 3:35, a rest for the Gosdens and Frankie Dettori. Flying Honours at 5 to 2 for Appleby and Buick. Salt Boy for Rafe Beck at 7 to 2. Quite a nice wee race, this.
It is. You could see an upset here with the ground. The Gosdens, they haven't been in flying form of late. This ground, they'll struggle to St. Clue in heavy soft ground, but it is at least a bit of form there. And Flying Honours doesn't have that. You have to take that and trust. Yeah, it's a tricky race to gauge. And I wouldn't be diving in and having a bet on it at the moment. That's for sure. But again, it's one of these where I think the market will probably tell you where to go on the day. the vibes and how fitness-wise they'll be forward, and the ground being an important factor as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the jump season finale at Sandown on Saturday. Celebration Chase. John Bond stepping up in grade. He's going to go for an open company against Guineas. Captain Guinness is there as well. Are you surprised that John Bond's deciding to go for this? Does this just summarise that it's been a shocking novice chase season? He's done really well. He's far better than anything else on offer. Let's go and try an open company.
I might as well try something. Aintree obviously didn't take anything out of him. It's a really simple race, wasn't it? He's won around Sandown before. He might as well have a go. Whether he should be favourite in front of Grenadine, I think is highly debatable. Grenadine loves Sandown. He was third in the champion chase where he made a howling mistake really halfway. He'd have probably been second if he didn't do that. And Captain Guinness, who was second in that, is coming back here, and Eddie to the Gate was well fancied in the champion chase. We get found out a little bit. I wouldn't be piling in 74 with John Bond. I'd probably be looking elsewhere.
I think he'll win if he's at his best, but I think he should be second favourite for some reason. I think it's a wee trappy race. I do think he'll win. I do think he's the most likely winner, but I think 74 is quite short, considering obviously Grenadine is quite a track specialist and will love this. 2:15, we've got the Bet 365 Gold Cup. Kitty's Light, quick turnaround for him. 4-1 favourite to win this. You've got Rebels Hill, Frodon and Rulo. Kitty's Light can do it again, surely.
There'll be some effort. It's going to run off £8 higher than in the future, so it makes you a chance your arm at this. It's a valuable pot. It's funnily enough, the going for the jump track is good at the flat track.
I find that bizarre.
Heavy. I don't know what is going on there, but you'd imagine there is surely some rain about. And if there is, if the word soft does pop up in the going description, then Revels Hill would be very interesting here. I quite liked him for the Scottish National, but I did suspect that he might come here.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. I do think it could turn into a bit of a grind. I do think he's kind of pretty well equipped for it. There's one at a big price, trained by Seamus Mullins, called Marauder at 20-1, which is interesting at price. He's got some kind of decent form in the book. He sneaks in there under the radar. 20-1 is just a little bit big. He's 5 from 9 in these company. He won at Doncaster quite well in a form that's been well advertised by Cooper's Cross, who's second in the Scottish National. He doesn't mind a bit of cutting the grounds. He's interesting around these kind of 3 mile 2 distances with stiff finishes. He's not too bad. So a sleeper at a price here would be Marauder.
Brilliant. We've got the Oaksey Chase. Hewick for Shark Handling at 6-4. Rachel Blackmore on board. Solo 7-2. Eldorado Allen McFabulous 5-1. 11-1 bar. Hewick, where are we with him? Do you think 6-4 is shocked here?
They're obviously coming here for good ground. Taking him out of the Punchestown Gold Cup race, where we've probably been banged on the figures now, given what happened to everything else. You just wonder if the Gold Cup has even left a bit of a mark on him falling.
Yeah, it was a bad fall, yeah.
Hoyce and York, went down kind of at the same time. They ran to kind of a similar-ish level. If he's over that, then he'll definitely win this. He makes the market, rightfully so. He's significantly clearing the figures with everything else. First flow looks a bit long in the tooth now. Fantastic lady. This trip probably will stretch her, who's outstayed at Aintree last time, over shorter. So, McFabulous has a lot to prove coming back from the last day in Solo. This distance, again, it might be a bit of a stretch, and Eldorado Allen's done nothing all season. So even by default, you're kind of looking at Hewick anyway, really. I think if he takes his chance, and I think if the ground's reasonable enough, I think he'll win. Yeah,
I think it could be hard to beat if the ground's in his favour. We've got the Bet 365 Select Hurdle final race we'll preview before looking at the Guineas. Goshen, Nappers Hill, Call Me Lord, Texard, Time Hill, Theatre Glory. No prices I've got it yet. You might have some. What do you think here?
Maybe Nappers Hill. Yeah, I mean, I think Paul Nicholls just kind of mapped out the end of the season quite well. He had a good week at Ayr, obviously. I think it's probably safe to assume that these kind of horses will come back to form. If the ground goes soft, then Goshen will be interesting. If it's better than that, then probably Nappers Hill. I think the rest are kind of, well, certainly exposed. I mean, Comey Lord hasn't shown much this season. He's getting a bit long in the tooth as well. Time Hill coming back, I suppose is interesting, but he'd have to take him in trust, really, wouldn't you, after the last effort now? So yeah, I would be inclined to say Nappers Hill just about at this trip, but if it rains, then Goshen would come out of the equation.
Brilliant. We'll move on to final part of the show. This will be the last show we will do before the 2,000 and 1,000 Guineas. We'll be doing a review show after that and previewing Chester, not next week, but the week after. So we thought we would look at the two first classics of the season. We'll start with the 2,000 Guineas. Auguste Rodin, 2-1. Obviously, a lot of talk about him potentially going for the Triple Crown. So winning this would obviously kickstart that. Shaldine obviously bumped off the Tory last week. I'll get your thoughts on that. You've got Little Big Bear, Sakir, Noble Style, Royal Scotsman. What do you think? Let's start with Auguste Rodin. Obviously, Triple Crown chat. Very bullish whenever that's mentioned. Obviously, the last horse to even attempt it was Camelot, so they think of him in that regard at least. What do you think of him? Do you think he's that good?
Well, the second from the Vertum Futuri, Epictetus won the Blue Ribbon Trial at Epsom this week, which is a slight form boost. You know, it was kind of made to work with it, but I don't think that yard of the total complete form. It was a lot more comfortable than margin suggests. So I think the form's fairly reliable. He has the background to do this. I mean, this looks sharp enough. I mean, it's a classic Aidan O'Brien scenario here. I mean, he's got the first favourite, he's got the favourite and the second favourite, and the favourite looks like probably a middle distance horse at the time. Definitely more of a Derby project than a Guineas project. But I mean, the Guineas can be a good starting point into Derby if we've got enough class. And the second one, Little Big Bear, who looks all speed. So he's got the speed stamina angle quite covered here. You know, and if it's quick ground, if it's lightning quick ground, then you'd probably lean towards Little Big Bear a bit. If there's cut in the ground and stamina comes into the equation, then I think Auguste Rodin's, you know, obviously going to take a lot of beating. The top two in the market, they've both got different profiles, but very attractive ones. Little Big Bear's only been beaten once. Auguste Rodin's unbeaten. And yeah, if he can win this, because this looks a less suitable leg than the Derby does, then yeah, he'd definitely be in the Triple Crown equation for sure.
What do you think of Shaldine? Obviously, we thought we'd maybe get a bit of info on him last week. He obviously was unseated. Do you think he could challenge? I think he's the most likely challenger to the O'Brien pair.
I think so. Having Sakir in the market says that. It was just a bit of kind of that was bottomless ground, and it was a bit of a soft fall, to be honest. But I mean, he did kind of lean in and get squeezed for room, and it's that kind of in between the stalls, you know, that kind of middle ground that they're going to get caught out a little bit. One jink left, the other one jinked the other way, and they kind of clashed, and Shaldine was slower away, and that was it. But it's probably saved them from a hard race there, because that would been bottomless ground, you know, just 2 weeks before a Guineas, which wouldn't be an ideal preparation really if all of these high class horses are coming in fresh off tailored racecourse gallops. So I think he's got a chance. The trainer's form does worry me though. He's just like something like 2 for 43 recently. I would like to kind of see them get out of that funk a little bit, because I mean they're obviously kind of struggling for a few winners. They were doing quite well in the all-weather season at the beginning of Easter, but right now, the start of the tough season, they've kind of tailed off a little bit. So I'd be a bit mindful of the stable form, but he's definitely one to consider.
I want to talk about a couple. I'll get your thoughts on obviously these. Noble Style, I thought was really good last year when winning the Group 2. I think he could potentially be a horse for this. Maybe whether he'll win it, I don't know, but I think he could be one to keep an eye on at 10-1. And it'd be some story of slip of the pen, obviously, in the day of the King's coronation. If a royal winner won the Guineas, I think that'd be quite fascinating.
Yeah, they take their chance. Yeah, I mean, he's been solely campaigned in all weather, hasn't he? And you know, this will be quick enough for him. I kind of had him down as a kind of reach for the moon type, kind of a maybe a lower grade horse and steam him for something bigger than Royal Ascot. But I mean, we think he's a Guineas horse, and they'll go St James's Palace after this if he is. So they're campaigning him like a Group 1 horse, and they might as well try it. I mean, Royal Scots wouldn't be without a chance either. You know, he shaped quite well in a strongly run Dewhurst. We thought kind of speed was all his bag, but his stamina is kind of coming out to play a little bit. And he settled quite well. So yeah, he'd have an each way shout as well. And the other Godolphin horse, Silver Knot, if he bounces back to his best form, he'd be of interest. So there's plenty of each way candidates. The market's warming up to Ian O'Brien's pair. I understand why, it was history of the race, but I mean, there are plenty of viable kind of each way alternatives that they like different kind of ground scenarios as well. So when you get closer to the date, it'll definitely reveal a lot more.
So what is your kind of pick? Give us a horse for 2,000 guineas.
Assuming that it's good grounds, I'd probably back Silver Knot each way.
Brilliant. Let's move into 1,000 guineas, which will take place on the Sunday. Bit more open, bit of a more kind of challenging market. By the looks of it, you've got Tahira 3-1, Meditate 7-2, Dream of Love 5-1, Mama's Girl and Remarque 7-1 and 12-1 bar. I think this. I'll get your thoughts on a lot of these, but O'Brien obviously statuette you fancied quite strongly for this race, kind of in the off season. What's your kind of thoughts now that she's out?
Bit of a blow. 12s, and she'd probably be vying for 41 favouritism. We Meditate, who won the Breeders' Cup meeting quite well over a mile. You know, that was sharp enough. He was beaten a couple of times as a 2-year-old, but it's Ian O'Brien campaigns as 2-year-old fillies quite aggressively, so they're battle hardened 3-year-olds, and some of them can quite improve significantly. I think Tahira might have a bit more class about her, but it seems a bit unlikely that she's going to come here.
Right.
I thought Dream of Love shaped really well at Maidan with that run under her belt. Behind Moj, it made up an absolute ton of ground, and ground that's probably a bit softer than ideal. She's the one that I'm kind of coming around to a little bit. She does need a bit to find in the form figures, but I think having that kind of evidence of training on from 2 to 3 quite effectively persuades me towards her. I think she's just about the most interesting at this stage.
Yep, the two that obviously won the trials a couple of weeks ago, Mama's Girl and Remarque. What's your kind of thoughts on them?
Yeah, Mama's Girl did well. I mean, the course and distance again. I mean, she definitely love it. Looks versatile ground-wise, definitely rock solid each way chance. I don't think it was the strongest trial in the world, but she withered through, came through late, and mowed them all down. It's a terrific running style for a 1,000 guineas, so she'd have a big chance. Remarque, don't really know a lot about her. I mean, this is a big kind of step up from what she's going to achieve. Even though it's a big figure on debut, but I mean, parachuting into this company that quickly and being that short is a bit of a negative for me.
So it's going to be a fascinating couple of weeks. Obviously, we will be back after the 1,000 guineas to review them and preview Chester. Calum, best of luck for the rest of the week at Punchestown. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks very much. Given the recent results, we probably need it, but it's always good to be on.
It's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Please gamble responsibly, and we'll see you for the next episode of the Betting Ring. Thanks.